And you're streaming on YouTube, right, Ruben?
Right. Mm-hmm. Yes, we are.
I don't see it yet.
Oh yeah, I just launched it. Okay, you should see it now.
And there it is. Okay, you're going to hear the echo for just a second so I can capture the URL.
Mm-hmm.
And there it is. Okay, you're going to hear the echo. I'm going to put it on Facebook. Give me a minute to do some sharing.
No problem. No problem.
Almost done, you guys. Give me one more second. Hey, Ruben, ready whenever you are.
Okay, hold tight. And take it, Greg.
Welcome, welcome, everyone. It's 6:24 on Monday night. You're listening to the 228th installment of the Age Out Angels Radio Hour, right here on www.hamiltonradio.net, Channel 2. I'm your host, Greg Rapport. If you're new to the show, I'm the founder and executive director of Age Out Angels. We provide one-to-one mentors to vulnerable youth for the purpose of coordinating the care and services that they need to thrive. We try to help young people avoid some of the horrible pitfalls that they're likely to face when they don't have a proper safety net. And this program is brought to you every week at the same time, courtesy of Doc G, William Saunders, Ruben Rodriguez, and all the fine people here at Hamilton Radio who allow us to use this airtime. Ruben is on the big board tonight. Robin is producing. As always, so good to have both of you with me, and so good to have all of you listening from your computers or in your cars in New Jersey. around the country and even beyond. Now, please take a moment. If you're looking at us on Facebook or YouTube, and hit all the buttons for me. We need you to like and subscribe and share, because what we're going to talk about tonight is relevant to everyone in your world. This topic applies everywhere, every geographic region. No one is excluded, and it needs to be shared. So please do that. Share what you're hearing right now. You know, if you want to know about child welfare and community betterment, this is where you come to get the whole truth. And I promise what you will hear tonight, no way this will be on the nightly news. Not a chance. There are so many stories that would swamp this story in a heartbeat. And you know what? Like, there's going to be stories about Ukraine, and what's happening there is absolutely positively horrible. But we got 430,000 children right here in this country who are not going to make a story on the news tonight, who are going to be pushed aside by other stories that are just more sensational, I presume. And so we're going to lament about all that tonight with my guest, Phyllis DiNardi, president and founder of We Are Loved. How do you not love the name of that company? And we're going to talk with Phyllis in just a minute. Also tonight, in my final words, I'm going to address gun violence in America a little bit. It is Gun Violence Awareness Month. Remember, it was 3 things this month. It's Pride. Everybody knows that, right? But it was also PTSD Awareness Month. And boy, that has a lot to do with the people that we serve. And now, finally, it's also Gun Violence Awareness Month. And the numbers would just blow your mind. So we'll get there. Try to hang with us till the end of the show, and you'll hear these numbers that'll just blow you away, and some interesting point of view. I had such an amazing week last week. I have to tell you about this week I had. On Thursday and Friday, what a pair of days. Thursday, I was at the New Jersey Child Placement Advisory Council's day-long event. The morning featured the Department of Children and Family for New Jersey's Commissioner, Christine Norbert-Beyer. And she just basically laid out the state's whole plan. And the plan is for making DCF more family supportive. This is going to change, at least in New Jersey and possibly in other places too. Foster care is going to change. It's not going to be we yank your kids out and put them in a separate home thing now. It's going to be family supports. That's what it's going to move to. There will be some children who, you got to be so careful when you're doing this, when you're not going to see yourself out to make sure every child remains in their home. You got to be able to recognize the ones where that would be the worst thing in the world for them. And of course, I'm talking about situations of incest and stuff like that. But anyway, that's for another day. A beautiful, beautiful plan that Ms. Norbert-Beyer laid out for the future of child welfare in New Jersey. Lunchtime, an amazing speaker, Margaret Holzer, told us about the insidious nature of how a young person can be molested right under their parents' noses. It is so insidious the way this sort of thing is happening. I'm not going to say it in past tense because it's happening right now. And this was a remarkable story. And then the afternoon, we spent the whole afternoon talking about complex trauma from a religious point of view with representatives from several faiths. So kudos to the organizers for bringing these 3 separate issues to the forefront in a very informative and substantive way. And that was just Thursday. Then on Friday, it was Family Unification Day in New Jersey. Can you imagine Family Unification Day? It was all people who had spent as much time as required going through the court system, going through the entire process to ultimately become reunited with their children. And the feeling in that room was just absolutely, absolutely amazing. So I hope next year we'll all know of it. If you can go to Family Reunification Day, it's certainly worth it. What a wonderful, wonderful 2 days. Hey, Bridges to Employment Program. Nobody wants to go to school in the summertime. No, it is so hard, isn't it, when the weather's beautiful out there? Especially if you haven't been to school in a few years. Nobody wants to go to school in the summertime, but you know what? Opportunity's knocking, people. Think about this. You can do a whole year of grade level equivalent in just 8 weeks. You got to work hard. In fact, you have to work your butt off. I'm not going to pretend that we're a diploma mill, okay? You have to work hard, but you can do a whole year in just 8 weeks. And you know what that means? That means you can do all 4 years of high school in 32 weeks, less than a year. In fact, just a little more than 6 months. You could accomplish all 4 years of high school. It will never be this good again, people. So take advantage of the Bridges to Employment program before it fills up. And of course, you know, to be in Bridges to Employment, you have to have had at least some history in foster care. You could be in foster care now. You could have been in it and aged out at some point, or you could have been in foster care and become reunited or been adopted. Any of those scenarios where at any point in your time you have a case number, you qualify to be in the Bridges to Employment program. But what if you don't? What if you don't qualify? What if you're not, oh boy, lucky enough to have been in foster care? What a terrible way to put it, huh? No one would ever refer to that as lucky. But someone on the outside of this program looking in right now might characterize it that way. So guess what? If you are in need of your high school equivalency, we can help you get that too. In Mercer County, we have this program that is for anyone who is low income and wants to get their high school equivalency. It's called Title II, high school equivalency. Call it whatever you want, but you can get this. And you know what? You can get it at any community college in any city. They all have it. And if you can't get it there, you could get it at any one stop in any city. So if you don't qualify for Bridges to Employment, but you still want to get your high school equivalency, let me know. And we'll find out who does it in your area in New Jersey. I can't account for other states. Sorry. The only thing I know for certain is school was never like this before. And that's all we're going to talk about school tonight, because tonight is about real life. It's about the gap that separates the skills youth in foster care have with the skills they need to thrive as they transition into adulthood. And my guest tonight is Phyllis DiNardi, who tries to help provide solutions in those areas. So Phyllis, welcome to the Age Out Angels Radio Hour.
Thank you so much, Greg. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Now, your organization is called We Are Loved.
Correct. Yes.
Where does that come from?
So the name came from two of my former foster daughters that were being reunited with their biological mom. And I made a good relationship with the mom, knowing that this was going to happen, because the girls had been with me for almost 5 years. So we had really had a strong relationship and bond going on. So with the relationship the mom and I made, we were able to help the transition for the girls to go back home. And when we brought them over, they turned around and they said, Mrs. D, we know we are loved because of the relationship you and mom have. And I think that's where the name came from.
Oh, that is like such a beautiful story. And like, what stage right now is this organization in?
So we're basically in somewhat at the beginning stages. We started just before COVID hit. So the 2 years of dealing with COVID, we helped with our holiday boxes, and which are boxes that we give out, every Christmas. And then we have our love bags that we make up that we give to have children that are transitioning from their home into foster care, with a new pair of pajamas, some hygiene products, a stuffed animal or book. But our life skill programs, or our love program, Learning Unique Values, kind of got pushed on the side. It got held up a little bit. We tried to do it virtually, but the poor kids were doing everything virtually, and it just wasn't what they wanted to be doing. And we really want to be hands-on, in person, helping with cooking and hygiene and cleaning and art and self-care, finance. So preparing them for whatever happens, like you said, in their life, whether they age out, whether they go back home to their biological family, whether they get adopted. We just wanted them to be prepared for the future, because I fostered 49 children and I saw that these kids had great potential. And so with the guidance and support and consistency in their life, they could be anything that they want to be. They just need to be given the proper tools.
How many kids did you foster?
49.
49 children of all different ages, or were you in this particular age group?
So we didn't, well, it was all different ages, but we did prefer some older children because I have 6 of my own children. And, I did the baby thing years ago. I like
Really?
kids that I can have a conversation with. I like to, mess around, fool around kind of thing. So I liked a little bit older because I just felt like I could communicate with them better and help them out a little bit. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, don't you find that interacting with a lot of young people kind of keeps you fresh and young? I think that's the immediate gain.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the knowledge that they do have and their skills are amazing. I don't think they even realize it themselves. We were blessed. The majority of the kids that we had were on honor roll. They did really well. They succeeded afterward. They kept in touch and, let us know that they did well. So it was really exciting to know that we at least gave them some direction and helped them possibly have a really good future.
What made you be a foster? And was it you and a partner or spouse? How'd you do that?
So my husband and I, so I started out as a CASA, a court-appointed special advocate.
Right.
And then the judge asked me to take on a second case of a 12-year-old boy who had been in the foster care system for 7 years. He had 3 failed adoptions. He was in 17 different homes. He was on 9 medications, and he was called the grumpy old man. So the judge had said to me, would I look into and take another case? Because I had a case with a special needs child that I am now, he's 28, I'm now his guardian. I stayed in his life through the whole process. So I knew that I loved being with these kids, and I saw the potential that this boy had, but unfortunately the foster home that he was in wasn't a good fit. And I now had to tell the court that he had to go into his 18th foster home, and I couldn't guarantee it was going to be a good home. So I went down to the DCP&P office and I texted my husband. I said, we're becoming foster parents. And that's how I became a foster parent.
Goodness, how long did he stay with you?
He stayed with us for 9 months. We found him a wonderful adoptive home. He finally was adopted, got him off most of his medications. He did really well. He was in a specialized school for behaviors, and he did test the waters. But he tested the waters because he wanted to be home with me. So every day he would act up and go be bad, and I would run down to the school and pick him up, and it was getting to be exhausting. And then I finally talked to the supervisor, and I was like, this is like not working out. And she's like, well, what's going on? And I said, he's acting up. I'm running down there. It's an hour drive each way. I have my own kids. And she said, well, what's the consequence? I said, consequence? I can't give this kid a consequence. He's already been through so much. She goes, no, you treat him like you treat your own kids. I was like, oh, okay. And with that, I said to him, you know what? If you're bad, you're staying at school. When you come home, we'll talk about it. And it worked. It worked. He knew that, he wanted to be home with me, but he couldn't be skipping school to do that.
You were enabling him, weren't you?
I was.
Indeed. Indeed. All right. So with 49 kids, though, you said the magic word. You had me at medication. With 49 foster kids, you must know more about medication than most doctors.
I don't want to say so, but probably, unfortunately, they're very easy to medicate these kids because they do have outbursts, and they do, they've experienced some type of trauma, which unfortunately, as a foster parent, we're not really aware of or know the exact trauma that we just know they've experienced it. But they're, they have a tendency to over medicate or quickly medicate these children because of their outbursts or their behaviors at certain times and everything. I'm not really sure if that's the best thing. I think giving the resource parent more information about some of the background of these children, of what they might have experienced, would help us understand why they're acting a certain way, that maybe could help us work it through when they're having a meltdown or something, starts throwing things or whatever it is. I think it just makes it more important to be able to understand what they're going through to help them better.
What's the most number of children who were occupying your house at the same time?
7.
And how many of those were biological?
They were all 7, they were foster children, all of them. But
Okay.
I also have a house in Lavalette, so it's a much bigger house, and I was able to, during the summer months, which was a fun place for the kids to be. So yeah, at one point we had 7.
Oh, that sounds like fun. I hope I get to stay there sometime.
Anytime.
Now, do you have any foster children now?
We do not. We moved into adult community 2 years ago, so we are no longer able to foster. And that's another reason why I wanted to start the We Are Love nonprofit, because I do feel a love and a passion to help these kids thrive in any way. I didn't want to give up being around them and supporting them, because it was a wonderful experience for myself and my family, just to see how we can help these kids thrive and do well. So that's when I decided, I wanted to do the nonprofit. And then when the girls said the We Are Loved, I just kind of all fit together really well.
Yeah. So you started We Are Loved before the pandemic?
November of 2019. Yeah, just right before.
Very interesting timing.
Yeah. So, but it all worked out. It all worked out.
But where were you though? At what stage were you at in March when suddenly we were on lockdown?
We had just had our very first one and only fundraiser on February 29th, one of those designer bag bingos, and that was it. That was it. But we did good. We held our own. Everybody was amazing with giving donations. So we still continue to support the children in foster care, like I said, with our holiday boxes. So the holiday boxes have new pajamas, slipper socks, a blanket, a mug, hot chocolate, cookie mix, a craft. And the box is personalized with the child's name on it, with a homemade ornament. And if there's a sibling group, they all get matching pajamas. We're trying to show them how to start a tradition so that they can put on their new pajamas. They can make hot chocolate and cookie mix with their resource families or their biological families, and do a little craft together. Because I know my kids are all grown. I have 8 grandchildren, and they all look forward to those new pairs of pajamas in the holiday season. If they celebrate another holiday, we make sure that, the box is made, in that tradition for them also. Just trying to show them what tradition is like, to show them how it's important to have that kind of, in your life. It just means a lot. And it goes on with you forever, even though my kids are older, and I'm hoping they would say, no, we don't need the pajamas this year. Now we're up to 20 something pairs of pajamas. It's, but we enjoy it. We enjoy having the same pajamas.
Absolutely. So when I did the promotion for your appearance tonight, I put 10 ways to fix foster care. There's actually, according to this article, 15, but I thought that might scare people away.
Yeah.
I only put 10. I only put 10 in the promotion. I thought it might be fun for you and I, since, essentially we do the same thing. I mean, I don't do gift boxes and stuff like that, but basically what we're trying to do is make life a little bit better for children in foster care. Does your clientele come from? Like, how do you know who to give a gift box to, and all the information about them, how old they are, what their favorite color is, all that stuff? So
we go through either DCP&P or the CASA offices.
Okay.
So we service six different counties throughout New Jersey right now. Last year we did 525 boxes.
Wow, that's substantial. Now, so do you have a contract with them, or is this just something that you do sort of nicely?
Yeah, we just do it on our own, no contract.
Yeah, we do too. It's too hard to have a contract. It's easier to just get it done.
Right.
Okay, now, so this group here is trying to say 15 ways to fix foster care, to reform foster care, and they're saying that the number one thing is keeping families together. The end goal of foster care is reunification. Yet before a child is placed into foster care, agencies and families need to work together in an attempt at keeping the child within the family if possible. More mental health, substance abuse treatment, support, and services are needed so birth parents can have access to the treatment services they need. So, this is what we're talking about now. This is the new way.
Right.
Right, is to treat whole families. Do you have a sense about that one way or another?
Well, I definitely agree with, I think unification is super important if it's a safe and healthy environment. Sometimes, and I know the division is very good about this, making sure that if they're going to leave the child in there and put in the services, that the child is safe and stuff like that. My only concern sometimes is that the biological parents don't have access sometimes to transportation in different ways to get to the services that they need. So it gets pushed on and goes on and goes on and goes on. And then when you're trying to talk to the child and make sure they are safe and that things are changing, they're not comfortable really with telling you because they're left in that situation. And sometimes if they do say something, saying like, no, they're still doing this or doing that, you're leaving them there and it could put them in harm's way sometimes. So I'm on I get it. And I love reunification, but I'm just a little bit nervous about some of the situations to get to the point of keeping that child safe.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think you got to separate poverty from neglect, right? So we have to stop yanking kids just because they're poor.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. But to your point, that's actually, they say that's about 60% of the time. Okay. So I would think that the other 40% comprises several other things that need to be looked at more carefully. And what you just did was describe like the nuance that has to be considered, because people within that family can have substance abuse issues and mental health issues that can all be taking place. That they can be comorbid, in fact,
right
at the same time. And they have to be consistent with getting their treatments and taking them. And so many places say, look what we have to offer. We have substance abuse services. We have mental health services. And they're like benefits. I mean, they're like features. But in order to derive the benefit, you have to get there.
Right.
So that means it has to be available in times that doesn't interrupt with your work or your childcare.
Right.
I mean, we can't just thrust services on a family and then tell you how you failed for not losing your job to get there.
Exactly. So sometimes it's a double-edged sword, and it can cause even more problems because it becomes stressful with them trying to live up to doing all the things that they need to do.
I'm going to help you till it hurts you.
Yeah, it's hard. And then, it's generational. And that's an unfortunate thing too. So we'd like to hopefully break that cycle. That's super important. And I think little by little, step by step, we can achieve some of that.
It is generational. That's true. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like I'm in the 1930s or the 1940s when I'm trying to convince a 16, 17-year-old child to stay in school. And I hear a voice in the background going, you're 16. You don't need nothing with that school. You get out and earn money. Right?
Right.
Okay. Well, number 2, understand how COVID affects foster care. As COVID continues to keep children and families inside. Well, this was written a while ago, but there was more abuse. That's documented. That did happen. Child welfare workers suspended monthly visits with foster families. Everything was unsupervised. So I guess number 2, understand how COVID affects foster care is understand all the pieces that need to be picked up.
Well, the floodgates have opened, from what I understand, now that the kids are back in school and feeling more comfortable and talking about, what was going on and, things that have happened. So, that's concerning because a lot of resource parents or foster parents had stopped fostering and doing things because they weren't getting any children. So they closed their homes or they moved on or, decided to do something else that they felt they can be useful at. And so, that's a struggle too, to make sure that there's enough people around that could help you if we're getting inundated right now. And a lot of new babies are being born with, other conditions like, fetal alcohol syndrome or drug addiction and stuff like that, because, everybody was in the house and God knows what was happening. And so now we have a lot of babies being born with a lot of problems too. So it definitely added to the situation.
Yeah, and a breakdown in many aspects of the system.
Right.
Okay, number 3. This is interesting. I can't say I agree with it. The average amount of time a child spends in foster care is 20 months, though that number can be significantly lower or higher depending on the child's situation. The longer a child spends in care, the more anxiety the child may experience due to separation. Whether it is reunification, adoption, or other options, agencies need to place more emphasis upon permanency of family for a child. Time spent in care. I don't know. You can put a number on that.
No, yeah, I don't know either. I mean, we've had children that just for a few weeks, for a few months. We had children for a year, 2 years, and like I said, we have the two girls for almost 5 years. You know what I guess I think the longer they're in this foster care system and they're with a loving and caring family, but they're still working on reunification, now there becomes another issue, because now the children have bonded with this family that they've been with, who show them their love and their care, and they're safe, and things are going well, and they've seen a whole different lifestyle. And it's not that they don't want to be with their parents, but now they've experienced something maybe a little bit better or different, and now you're asking them to make another decision, and you know, they feel like they're being torn between loving their foster family and loving their biological family, because they want to bond and love both of them. So now it's another pressure put on these poor children the longer they stay in the system or bond with another family. So that's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Yeah, it really is, because I mean, there are just so many sides to that sword. It's not just double-edged. The longer you stay in the system, you know, especially if you get moved around, the greater the risk sort of becomes that you will meet someone who's less than caring,
right? Exactly.
as your foster parent. You know, we can't pretend that doesn't exist. You know, the other day when clergy, I was at the meeting last Friday where clergy were talking about how you handle incidences of assaulting children, right? And when that was placed in the lap of the clergy, no one could stand up and say, we need to find out who's doing that and tie their thumbs from a yardarm. Nobody said that. Everybody said, we got to be much more diligent about that. Nobody said we should be strung up in the town square.
Right.
You know? So, you know, until everybody's willing to understand that we got to do more drastic things to pervs, you know,
right.
It's sort of hard to just say automatically that a person should spend less time in training. I mean, that's the point. Number 4 is online training and support for foster parents. Foster families always rely on community support, but they need it more now than ever. Do you feel that when you were a foster parent that you had the supports that you needed?
So I ran the support meetings for Monmouth County. So as part of, it was FOSS back then, now it's Umbrella. So I've always been that person. I'm a go-getter. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to take care of myself and help whoever I can help. So We Are Love also does monthly support meetings for our resource parents with trained speakers and different on different subjects that I've realized when I was a foster parent, which things that were important to learn about, different behaviors and diet, and you know, the LGBTQ. You know, if a child comes to you and say they think they're this or that, I mean, it's all new. So how do you want to handle it? So we had amazing speakers from January to June. So we supported the resource parents, and we also at the same time had a room where foster children could come to, or adopted children, and hang out together and do arts and crafts and play together and see that it's just not them, that there's other kids going through the same things and stuff like that. So we did implement that in a part of We Are Love too, where as we're growing and I'm thinking about all the things that worked or didn't work for me as a foster parent, I'm trying to implement it and hopefully be able to support the whole foster community, whether it's the biological, the resource, or the kids, of course.
Whatever part of that triangle.
Yeah.
You're going to be there for them. That's fantastic. How hard is it to set up an organization like yours? Like, people who are listening, some people may be out there thinking, you know, maybe I should do this in my area. We go all across the country, this show. So you don't have to worry about competition.
Oh, competition is good.
I love it. Yes, I love it. The more the merrier. We have 430,000 kids. The more people want to come
That's
in
right.
and
The more
compete, the better.
and collaborating is good. I mean, it's a lot of work. I wish I was 30 years younger, to be honest with you. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of components to it. You're dealing with the community that you're supporting, but then you're dealing with your volunteers who help you with that community. You're dealing with finance. You're dealing with your board. I mean, it's a lot. It's a full plate. I personally have to learn to let things go. I have a wonderful support system, family, friends, board, volunteers, but I always have to have my 2 cents into everything, and I have to learn to say, okay, they got it. They're handling it. It's fine. But it's my baby, and I'm so possessive, and I'm try not to be that way. So little by little, I mean, but I'm not making any promises. I'm trying my best. That's all I can say.
How long did it take you to put it together?
It didn't take long to put it together because I did have the experience. Like I said, being a CASA, being a foster parent, working under umbrella at the time. I was on a lot of committees with DCP&P. I did the trainings for the Pride trainings. So I was very involved with them. I was on the support line, the R2R through Rutgers. So I gave a lot. I did a lot. So I had a lot of experience. I just had to figure out how to kind of put it all out there and get it all organized, which I'm not really totally organized yet, but we're on our way.
I have to ask you, because I mean, you've met a lot of foster parents in your life. Are they all like you?
I've been blessed with the majority that I know. Yeah, we are. We form wonderful relationships and friendships and bonds that'll go on forever. I'm sure, there's different in anything and everything. But majority of the foster parents that I've come across or met or whatever are 300% invested in this.
Yeah, well, you met the good ones. I have the same experience actually with caseworkers. The caseworkers who I meet are the very best caseworkers because they have to go an extra mile just to find me. And, right. And they do to offer it. Information goes through this funnel at the Department of Children and Families. It's really hard to get information through it. They found me, it means they looked hard and they tried. So what's your feeling about visitations? When you were fostering all those kids, do you feel that they had enough visitation with their biological families?
I believe that the system set them up. Unfortunately, a lot of times the kids were disappointed because the parents didn't either show up or came and didn't stay the whole time, or I think it was more unfortunately the parents who disappointed the kids than the division not having it there for them. I mean, they kept giving the parents another chance, which would really be sometimes a hindrance to our resource parents' schedules because a lot of us worked full times. We had our other family members, we had other commitments. And you had the schedule, and then if the biological parent doesn't show up or something, they always gave them another chance, or they'll fit in another day, whatever. And it became that was a lot of stress on us because now we had to, rechange our schedule and try to make sure it worked. And, it was there. Unfortunately, I don't think the biological parents used it to their advantage.
Yeah, I don't know how to describe it. It's just that when it comes to scheduling and stuff like that, I and my friends, I mean, the people who I know take that sort of thing. We're calendar people. Everybody's got Google Calendar or whatever. And we take copious, and we make sure that people know if we're coming, if we're going to be late, we text, we do this whole, I'm going to call it procedure.
Right.
To have lunch with somebody, just to meet, just to have lunch. But then I find so frequently that someone will just say to me, yeah, I'll be there, and then not.
Right.
And if I say, where were you? They'll go, what? I had to do something.
Yeah. Right. It wasn't important.
Oh, okay. Well, you had to do something. All right. Then.
Yeah. That was meeting me. Yeah.
And do you want to know what this is to your earlier point about it being intergenerational, because that is just the worst piece of modeling you can do for a kid. You know,
Yep.
the kid is trained. And so then the kid does it, and I get it. I totally understand it. You know, it's exactly how they were demonstrated. They weren't taught to be that way. Nobody said, look, this is how you do it. You know, you say yes, then you don't show up. Nobody ever taught them that.
Right.
You know, they were just taught, just watching. Okay. So anyway, visitations. It's a tough one when the bios don't show up. So rules, policies, and paperwork. Do you think there was too much? Do you think there's too much paperwork, too much rules, too much? Towards
the resource parent, yes. We're held at a high level. I mean, they even check the temperature of our water. I mean, the room measurements have to be a certain size to have so many kids. That your animals have to be, be vaccinated. They put us at such a high standard, high level, and then unfortunately, when these kids or we go home, it's just way back down there again. And I don't understand. Like if you removed from that level and you brought them into something else, and brought them up to a higher level, why wouldn't they go home to that level? Like, why would you bring them back down? It doesn't make sense. So that part I think sometimes is a little unfair. I mean, I think they need to be monitored, and I think it's good because not everybody, like what we had said, is going to be giving 300% or even 100%. I get that, but sometimes they just they pick on the wrong people for the wrong things. Basically. So that was like that could be an issue too. So like if you were too caring and you wanted to make sure Johnny got what he needed, and you might have been a little demanding or whatever, it could have backfired on you, which is sad. So those other resources who kind of laid back and maybe didn't ruffle too many feathers and were just kind of kept everything at a good minimum or whatever, kind of skated through, was fine. But then again, did the child get what they really need? Did they get everything that they possibly could? Like I would say to my friends, I'm not here to make a friend. I have a lot of good friends. I'm here to make sure these kids are getting what they need, the best that whatever they can be. That's the point of what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be caring for them, making sure that they're well cared for, they got the best, that they're cared for, whether it's mentally, physically, emotionally, and all those aspects. So I'm going to do what I have to do. Sometimes people liked me, sometimes people didn't, and that's okay too.
All right, now, so to that point about, they're talking about premature reunification. While the end goal of foster care is reunification between the child and the birth family, premature reunification often leads to a child's re-entry into the foster care system or even death. Furthermore, current law allows uprooting and placing the child with an unemployed relative who has ongoing domestic violence, anger issues, and a substance abuse addiction simply because they're blood relatives, even if the child has never met that relative.
I don't think a child would be placed in that situation.
I don't either.
No, I mean, that's a little drastic. I mean, DCP&P is definitely not going to be placing a child with that person.
No, that was overly dramatic. It could have happened. But I'm just thinking, this was written about a year or so ago. So it could have happened sort of in the beginning of the kinship care phase, right? Where they could have just said, okay, you're an uncle, you're an aunt, you're a blah, blah. That's how, hey, look, when I was a kid and we were placed in kinship care, that's how it was done. It was like, who's the relative closest to their school?
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that was that.
Yeah, I would say nowadays that definitely wouldn't be happening. I would hope not.
Would have been nice to have. I'm betting. Therapy. Many times children placed into foster care suffer from mental health issues. Issues from anxiety can manifest themselves in a number of ways. Professional therapy and counseling is essential for the well-being of the child. In addition, other forms of therapy such as art, music, animal, and play therapy should also be available. Okay, is that realistic. That was quite a list. Art, music, animal. I want to live there.
Yeah, I mean, the child wouldn't get all of that. The child would get one thing if it was even available. Unfortunately, there's not a lot always available. There's like waiting lists, and we know that there's been a lot of cutbacks on for the mental health as far as funding and stuff like that. So, we've had therapists come in and out of our homes. And I'm going to be honest with you. And since we dealt with mostly the young teens or preteen children, if they didn't want to talk or they didn't want to do anything, that hour was just sat there doing like nothing. And I try to explain to these kids, the best thing to do is talk about it. You need to talk about it. But if the therapist is not comfortable with figuring out a way to get them to talk about it, it's just wasted. So now there was nothing ever resolved, and yet you're taking the time, for the kids' time, the therapist's time, but nothing is getting resolved. And unfortunately, more than not, that was the situation. You know what young teens are going to be. They know it all. They're fine. Nothing's wrong. We don't have to, deal with it. That just didn't always work. I don't think that was really good.
That's interesting. Yeah, therapy is a crapshoot, and I know that a lot of the kids that I talk to disdain it, and to be specific, will tell me that they just don't like to be constantly medicated. Although I've heard more nuance. I've heard somebody say, like, I hate the way I feel the therapist is looking down on me. Like, without these drugs, I'm not a whole person.
Yeah.
I'm
sure. That's why I was saying, I don't know if it's always I know some kids have to be medicated, but I think if the therapist and the families work together and figure out what was bothering them or how we can, get them to be more comfortable and feel secure and feel loved again, I think that would be the best way to do it. I think that definitely makes a big difference.
Did you, with 49 different kids, did you have a lot of acting out? Did that happen?
We really didn't. And I know it sounds
impossible. Yeah.
It was, knock on wood, it was amazing. We had one little girl, she was 4 years old. Her brother was 10. She cried 24/7. Days. And she just wanted to be with a family member. Her brother was very happy. And we found an aunt, and she was able to go. And her brother, of course, went with her. But my husband and I would be like in the middle of the night, when a child came, we always had buckets of new pajamas and clean, soap and hygiene products and different stuffed animals and stuff, and wash them up, give them a snack, and put them to bed. And we would wait. And we were thinking they're going to wake up crying, they're going to wake up cursing us out or whatever. And knock on wood, we really never. But I had 6 of my own kids. I owned a preschool. I kind of very comfortable with kids. So I would say, we can make this a good experience or a bad experience. It's totally up to you, however you want it to go. I'm good with that. Who's going to say they want to have a bad experience? Like, not many people, right? Or many kids even. And then the next day we would sit down and we would talk about, like, when's your bedtime? Oh, I didn't have a bedtime. I said, well, we have bedtimes here. So depending on your age, this is the bedtime. When did you do your homework? Oh, I didn't have to do my homework. I did it whenever. I'm like, okay, well, after school, you have a snack, you start your homework. Like, so I had I'm a very routine person, because that's how my brain works, and it just makes my life easier, but it made their life easy. Like, I didn't have, like, it's time to read now. We cleaned up after dinner. It's time to read for 20 minutes. They all sat down at the counter and took out the books and read. And then, of course, then they could go watch TV, take a shower, do whatever until their bedtime. So it was just the way it was. And with structure kind of thing just works with kids. Consistency and structure. And I would say that when I'm training, you could be tired one day, it's 8:30, it's bedtime, and the kid's whining, giving you a hard time. You'd be like, fine, stay up. No, that doesn't work. You're going to bed, it's 8:30. If we have a good week on the weekend, you can stay up later. We can record any show you want nowadays, thank God. So you're not missing a show. You can't tell me, oh God, I need to watch that show. I can record that show. So when we're having a good day at the end of the week and you had a good week, then you get to watch your show and do whatever you want. And it worked. It was, it's like a positive reinforcement, I guess.
Did you face the issues of food insecurity, where kids were taking food and sort of hoarding it under their beds? And
yeah, definitely.
Was that common?
Not too much. Out of the 49, I think maybe there was 3.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah, no, it wasn't bad at all. but they had access in the home. We showed them where the cabinets were, the refrigerator was. I mean, we didn't, if they needed to eat it, they're welcome to have it. Just say, Mrs. D, I'm going to go get a piece of fruit. I'm going to go get a snack. I'm going to, whatever. It's, like I said, I had 6 kids, so I was used to, and there was always plenty there, to have and stuff like that. So it worked. I mean, we had to teach a lot of kids how to eat things. Some kids never had anything but fast food. One little boy didn't even know what a condiment was. Never had mustard, ketchup, none of that stuff. He just had chicken nuggets and mac and cheese. By the time he left us, like I think it was like 9 months later, he was eating salmon and pork chops and spinach and broccoli. And his mother's like, she actually shadowed me for 2 months before she took him back home. She said, because he's doing things for you that he would never do for me. But I don't, this is what we're having. This is it. So I said, you got to try something 25 times before you can tell me you don't like it. You could Google that. and then be like, what? I go, that's the role, So by 25 times, if you could eat it 25 times, you're going to like it.
So of these 520 boxes that you sent out, like what's the average age of the child that you're working with? Are you doing teens or preteens?
All ages. We do from infants all the way to 18-year-olds.
Really? Yeah.
We even have some teen moms that have the newborn babies. We make so we have matching for them too. So we do all ages.
And then is there any follow through when they age out of the system? Do they still get
we've gotten a really few nice, either emails or through social media messages. One teenage boy, when he was with us, he was he thought he was the coolest thing from apple pie, and he wanted to play football, and he only played on the streets. And I said, if you're going to play on a team, it's like totally different. So I put him in the Giants football camp for a week to learn. I said, I want you to be really good, because now he's going to high school, and he was a Jet fan. He's like, I'm going to wear my Jet t-shirt. I said, good, wear your Jet t-shirt. And I called the guy from the Giant camp. I said, I'm going to be dropping this boy off with his Jet t-shirt. Could you have the boys line up? And when he gets out of my car, I have them charge him. He's like, what? I go, he's like, we don't do that. I go, no, you have to do that. You have to get. So we pulled up, and the boys were all lined up with their hands behind their back. And I'm like, okay, get out. He's like, no. I go, yeah, you got to get out. I pay for the camp. You got to go. He's like, I'm not going. I was like, no, you're going. He's like, I'm taking my shirt off. I go, no, you're not. You wanted to wear that shirt. You're wearing that shirt.
Oh, God.
We went on for like 10 minutes, but then he took the shirt off. He was a little nervous. He didn't want to get out with the boys standing there. But he learned, because he's never played a team sport. He only played on the street. So I wanted him to be successful and enjoying. And he graduated high school, and he texted me and he said, Mrs. D, because of your support and your consistency, he said, I got into NJIT. But unfortunately, I can't afford that. So he joined the Marines, and, to get to pay for his schooling. And now he's married and he has a little baby.
Oh, well, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting topic. Co-parenting. For many children in foster care, they come from a long cycle of family members placed in foster care before them. By showing compassion, by reaching out, and by helping birth parents of children in foster care, we not only help them, we help their children as well. Co-parenting sees foster parent working together alongside the biological parent of the child.
Absolutely. If you're able to do that, a much more successful rate for those kids. That's what happened with my 2 girls, and that's why they felt that they're loved. They've been home for over 3 years now, almost 3.5 years. We're still in touch. They still come over. We spend holidays together. They come down the shore house. We go away. We still do things as a family. And their mom's very happy with that. It was hard because the girls, hadn't been with their mom for almost 7 years. And then when they went back, they left when they were young. They went back, they were young teenagers. So I said, if you think young kids are tough, teenagers are harder. So we need to keep the doors of, the communication open, because I wouldn't want something to happen that would set this back and girls have to be removed again or ruin their lives, whatever. The oldest one is in college. She's a sophomore in college. The other one's going to be a senior in high school, honor classes. They're doing extremely well. So if you can, definitely that's the way to do it. It's not always easy, but it's definitely a very good thing to do.
Yeah, I think the child benefits in the long run, even though there is a degree of difficulty that's, you
Right.
know,
As long as the biological parent understands that we didn't remove their child, we're just there to support them while they're getting themselves together.
yeah,
And sometimes they get jealous because the kids are happy sometimes with their foster families because it's a whole different life and they're experiencing different things. But it's not, I try to explain, it's not that they don't love you and they don't want to be with you. They're just experiencing new things, and it's okay. Like you, so just, you know, we gotta work through that kind of stuff. And I think that's important.
yeah, yeah. Now, it turns out that the author of this article is against child sex trafficking. I don't know who would argue with with them about that, but apparently we should be more diligent. Like, this is what you call a firm grasp of the obvious, right?
We did have 3 young girls that were being sex trafficked
Come
when we
through your
did
house.
foster care. Yeah.
Yeah.
Young girls. Their mom actually sent them up from Florida. She told them that this man was their uncle and she was getting paid for what the girls were doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely insidious. The lecture that I heard last Friday from a person who was not in foster care. She was not in foster care. She was growing up in a beautiful suburban neighborhood, having friends and family and all the stuff that we all have, right? Growing up in a middle class environment. And it turns out she's being groomed by the next door neighbor's father.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's the kind of a situation where, sure, they all partied together, they barbecued together, everybody did everything together. Next thing you know,
Yeah.
she's lunch.
Yeah. Scary.
But I think we need more severe punishments for that.
Absolutely.
You know, I don't think we should punish people severely on innuendo, but when the facts are there, you know, when there's facts and evidence to support the claim, then those people need to get tarred and feathered.
Right.
And I mean that sort of literally. You
Yeah.
know,
No, I understand. Yeah, I agree with you. And also when the kids report it, people need to take this stuff seriously. You know, sometimes kids make up stories or they saw that on TV.
right.
So
Yeah,
no, they're not gonna say something like that if that's not true. It's
yeah.
not true.
I've seen women who will tell their child that they're lying so they don't destroy the meal ticket.
That's right.
You
That's
know,
right. Yeah.
and so here's the child in that situation. It's just too weird. Although, but I just don't know what you do about it exactly. I mean, how would you be inside that family to say to that mother, "I'm going to tell on you"? You know, it's
Right. That's the problem. You know, but this is how mental health and people feel. They're more entitlement and what's important is what they want instead of what's important. You brought a child in this world, that should be a priority. So
about provide relief and support for caseworkers.
what? I'm sorry, what was that?
How do you? This is a twist.
Oh
How do
boy.
you feel about providing relief and support for caseworkers?
Absolutely.
Totally right.
Absolutely. They give 300%. I mean, majority of them are trying their best and they hit brick walls just like everybody else, right? So they have so many levels of supervisors and people over them that they have to answer to. They can only do what they're allowed to do. They may not always agree, but they have to do what they have to do. And sometimes that has to be so hard for them because they might see a way it's different, but yet if the upper, hands are saying, no, you got to do this for whatever reason, that's a tough one. They deserve a lot more.
Absolutely. Now, there is one last one, and I'm going to save it for the end. So don't go away, Phyllis, okay? I just want to talk about guns for a second because I want people to understand that on this earth, man rules. And by man, I mean man, woman, or whatever. That's who rules. Do you know why we rule? We rule because we know how to organize. Believe me, if the giraffes knew how to organize, they'd be in charge, okay? But we have no real enemy. There's no predator. I guess you could say virus, right? That sort of thing. So, okay, I can go with that. But essentially, it's really our own responsibility to kill ourselves because there's no one else there to do it. So that seems to be what we've done for like ever. This is like not something new. The new thing about this, okay, the new thing about this is just the superpower of the weaponry that's being used, the number of people who can be killed that quickly. But Pew Research did a lot of just number crunching about this, and they found some CDC data and some FBI data, and the most current data is 2021. Okay, and so here's some news: more Americans died of gun-related injuries in 2021 than any other year on record. That's the heart of the pandemic, right? According to the latest actually 2021, we were supposed to be coming out of it, but then we didn't. According to the latest available statistics from the CDC, that included record numbers for both gun murders and gun suicides. Despite the increase in such fatalities, the rate of gun deaths, a statistic that accounts for the nation's growing population, actually remained below the levels of earlier decades. So there were more, the number was more, but when you take into account the increase in the population, the actual rate of gun deaths from both murders and suicides was actually less. Here's a closer look at gun deaths in the United States. In 2021, the most recent year for which data is available, listen to this, 48,830 people died from gun-related injuries in the United States. That includes murders and gun suicides, along with 3 less common types of gun-related deaths: accidental deaths, those that involve law enforcement. There were some 500 of those, and whose circumstances could just not be determined. Now, what share of U.S. gun deaths are murders and what share are suicides? Although they tend to get less public attention than gun-related murders, suicides have long accounted for the majority of U.S. gun deaths. In 2021, 54% of all gun-related deaths in the United States were suicides, and 43% were murders. And boy, doesn't it gloss over when you do it in percentages? Wow, 54% were suicides. What are you going to do, huh? Do you know what that actual number is? That 54% number represents 26,328 American human beings who killed themselves with guns. The numbers are just absolutely positively staggering. And like, here's what I want to tell you about that. I'm mixed. I'm mixed. I have such mixed feelings when it comes to it, and I'm going to tell you why I have mixed feelings. Because before the Holocaust, they took everyone's guns away. That's what they did. Now, I don't know. There's got to be a balance here somewhere. We used to have an assault weapons ban. These AR-15s and other assault type weapons were not around in the 90s, I think. And then that law sunsetted. And so then all of a sudden, these military type assault weapons were available again. And I don't think we should have those. The police, local law enforcement shouldn't be outgunned. That shouldn't be possible. And the thing is, if you're going to have an armed rebellion, you know, if you have to do that, if you find yourself in a Holocaust type situation, or if you're just a lunatic who wants to rebel, if you're going to have an armed rebellion, you have to win with less firepower. I mean, think about it. You're not going to beat the army, right? You're not going to beat the army and the Navy. You could have a big gun. You're still not going to have a tank.
We hope not.
So armed rebellions have to win with inferior weaponry. That's the way armed rebellions work. That's the rule, okay? If you're going to have an armed rebellion, if you're going to be a resistance fighter, you have to do it with inferior weaponry. It's your conviction. It's your death at any cost, conviction to the cause that enables you to win compared to the, I don't know, bourgeoisie who you're fighting. Just went back to Marxism there for a second. But that's the point, is there has to be some kind of a limitation as to this. And if this is Gun Violence Awareness Month, then understand that 48,830, can we say almost 50,000 people died from guns? And people will argue with me. They'll say, yeah, how many of those were those mass shootings that get all the headlines? Well, too many. That's the answer. Yes, it was a small percentage, okay? I admit it. It was a small percentage of that 48,000. There were probably 200 people killed in mass shootings in 2021. But boy, it feels like that number keeps going up, doesn't it? And as the guns get more sophisticated, they can kill more people faster. Why are we enabling that?
Right.
It seems like a sensible place. And now the other thing is that if there was more control over who gets a gun, would it be possible, and I don't know the answer to this, but I'm sure people will be kind enough to tell me how foolish I am on Facebook later. Would it be possible to have some sense of regulation that would have kept guns out of the hands of those 28,000 suicides? Could those people still be alive? Or what percentage of those people could still be alive? Because you'll never save them all. But what percentage of those people could still be alive if there was some form of screening or some form of something that might have revealed an instability, shall we say? I mean, is that the lie detector test that you get when you start a job and they want to reveal your instabilities? Of course, I don't know that you could give a lie detector test to somebody. That'd be a constitutional issue, right? For them to figure out. But that's what has to happen. There has to be an assault weapons ban, and there has to be some more of the vetting process in order to get a gun. And that's all I have to say about that. Now, I want to go back to what I was talking about with Phyllis in just a second. Phyllis, how can people find you? Can they find you online? Are you findable, or are you closed with DCP&P and you keep it?
No, we're online. We're on Instagram, where We Are Loved NJ. We have our website, weareloved.info. We're on Facebook. So if they Google the We Are Loved, they could find us on Facebook. So we're on social media. We're very big on social media.
Very good.
Yep.
Okay. And people have an opportunity to donate to you in various ways, I would presume.
Yes, we have definitely different ways to donate to us, to volunteer with us, to support us, or reach out if they need support in some way too. So we're available. If someone just needs to talk about some things, or they're looking for help in transitioning their child, or they have a child that's going through something emotional, whatever. If we're able to, we try to help them find the best service that they can get if they're overwhelmed at that time and having a tough time.
And the most important fact that we have here in the idea of reforming foster care, I'm sure you're going to agree with this, Phyllis, is written to our audience tonight. It's become a foster parent. Help out, especially of an older teen.
Yes.
Older teens just don't get the cred, and that's who I work with, and so I love them.
No, and that's a good point, because everybody wants that cute little baby, but the cute little baby is going to grow up and have maybe behaviors or issues or health issues, and you don't know about it. The teenager, you know right now what's going on. If they're having some issues, if they're having, some anxiety, if they're having depression, if they're having outbursts, they're having, it all. So it's easier to figure it out and how to help them, So everybody wants that cute little baby. I like the older kids.
They wear it on their sleeves, don't they? That's all we have time for tonight. I am so sorry. This is like over an hour. We went way over. I hope Ruben's not too angry with me. I want to thank my guest, Phyllis DiNardi, president and founder of We Are Loved. Look it up on social media. Thanks so much to you at home listening in. We're off next week. It's July 4th. Join me in 2 weeks when my guest will be Marion Reinson with another interesting organization called Eating for Your Health. but no show next week in honor of July 4th. So let me wish everybody a happy and safe holiday, please. We need you back here. We don't want to lose listeners that way. Thanks to our producer, Robin, to our engineer, Ruben. Music provided by Mozart. I don't know why he works for us. He must need the money. Let's do it again in 2 weeks, everybody. Stay safe until next time. Remember, it's only Monday, so there's still plenty of time to make this the best week ever. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks for a great show, Phyllis. Sometimes the